Welcome back, everyone. I hope you are having a wonderful week so far, and hopefully you got to soak up some of today's sunshine from wherever you're tuning in from today. So as you know, I have been watching the question periods in the House of Commons, and what I have observed this past week is that we have this minority government that's under the impression that they know exactly what Canadians want, and that was another Liberal government. But I would argue we didn't want another Liberal government. What we wanted was a government that was going to be fiscally responsible and who was going to restore our country's economy. See, prior to Carney's entrance to the political arena, the majority of Canadians, and I mean the majority, were fed up with the Trudeau administration. It's a well-documented fact. The Conservatives were on the road to holding a majority government because of them, because of the Liberals. Why? Because Canadians are fed up with being poor in one of the most resource-rich countries in the world. Regardless of how you voted this past election, I think we can all agree that what I just said is true. Then comes in someone we know very little about, who we were told had a brilliant resume and was an accomplished economist. That gentleman later on made promises to us. He promised that he would make the economy grow and work for every single Canadian, not just the rich. He also promised to make Canada the fastest growing economy in the G7. Carney promised to not let government spending increase more than 2% per year. Well, he's been our prime minister for a few months now, and government spending has already increased by 8%. The Liberal inflationary spending is out of control, and that $825 tax cut they're so fond of is not going to move the needle in any household when the cost of living just continues to rise with each passing month. Every single Canadian dollar matters right now, especially with TD warning Canada is about to enter into a recession. So keep all of this in mind as we begin today's topic. We're diving into the Auditor's General reports. The Auditor General's report tabled on Tuesday. It is a bombshell exposing government spending gone wild and complete neglect of any accountability. This report is a stark snapshot of the Trudeau's administration's last decade, and it is not a pretty picture, not even in the slightest. We'll focus on two audits that reveal jaw-dropping lapses in oversight: the F-35 fighter jet acquisition and the professional services contracts with GCStrategies. Both are a complete embarrassment to the Liberal legacy and a slap in the face to every single tax-paying Canadian. So we have the F-35 fighter jet fiasco. Auditor General Karen Hogan didn't hold back on this one. Canada has committed to buying 88 F-35 jets. Costs have skyrocketed nearly 50% from $19 billion to $27.7 billion, driven by outdated estimates, inflation, and currency fluctuations. Toss an additional $5.5 billion for infrastructure and weapons, and taxpayers are staring at a $33 billion bill. The Department of National Defense failed to track these cost drivers, eroding any hope of value for money. Then there's the delays. New facilities in Cold Lake, Alberta and Bagotville, Quebec are 3 years behind schedule, pushed from 2028 to 2031, even though the first jets are planned to arrive next year. This forces pricey interim fixes like movable facilities with costs still unknown. A pilot shortage, which by the way was flagged in 2018, threatens operational readiness. And to add fuel to the fire, U.S. Joint Strike Fighter Program Office warned that Canada's bases weren't ready, and this was risking the jet's stealth technology. This mess was raised in the House of Commons, but to no surprise, the Liberals dodged every question and refused to answer. Yet, oddly enough, Mark Carney had a press conference in Halifax this past Wednesday, where he mentioned he's exploring greater investment in production in Canada for F-35 program or even alternatives due to the U.S. trade tensions and the fact that most of that $27.7 billion is just going to flow back into American companies. Carney is eyeing options like Sweden's Saab Gripen, which could be built here in Canada to create more jobs. But here's the catch. Canada's already sunk $1 billion into this program and has committed to paying for 16 jets, which are supposed to arrive next year. Switching planes could waste hundreds of millions, with billions more for new procurement, training, and facilities. So are we about to pay twice for the same defense capability just to dodge US influence? I don't know. So why hasn't this shift been discussed during the question periods? Why are the Liberals hiding their plans? Don't taxpayers deserve to know where their money is going to be spent? For a party that preaches transparency, their silence in the House of Commons is beyond deafening. Now on to the GCStrategies and the ArriveCan scandal. GCStrategies is the so-called Ottawa-based IT company behind the ArriveCan app and also behind another 105 contracts. In reality, it's a two-person operation run from a home, acting as a middleman between the government and actual IT firms doing the work. The Auditor General's 2025 report exposed $92.7 million in contracts awarded to the GCStrategies from 2015 to 2024. The audit, triggered by the September 2024 House of Commons motion, examined 106 contracts across 31 federal organizations, with $64.5 million spent, a third of sampled contracts, worth $6 million, involved subcontractors without security clearances, a lapse that persisted for nearly a decade. Financial oversight was a disaster. Nearly half of the contracts lacked proof of deliverables, and 58%, worth $4.8 million, had poor monitoring with missing or uncollected timesheets. Procurement rules were ignored in 82% of non-competitive contracts, totaling $91.46 million, with no justification for pricing or value. The Canada Border Services Agency, which funneled $56.4 million to GCStrategies, was ground zero for the ArriveCan debacle. The House of Commons Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates dug into this, with two main Conservative MPs, Damien Kurek and Michael Barrett. They led the charge. They grilled GC strategy partners Christian Firth and Darren Anthony, who kept 15 to 30% of the commissions while subcontracting all IT work to firms like KPMG and BDO Canada without disclosing subcontractor details. Firth was even cited for contempt in April of 2024 for stonewalling the committee. When MPs demanded answers in the House of Commons, specifically, when can Canadians expect to get their taxpayer dollars back, the Liberals did what they do best. They dodged, they weave, and they deflected. Those are my ninja moves, by the way. They praised the Auditor General, proclaimed their new minister position to oversee all of this. But guess what? Canadians are still stuck with that hefty bill. With unemployment rising with each passing month, by the way, I don't know which taxpayer dollars is going to end up paying for this. But what I do know is that I'm no grand economist like our Prime Minister, Mark Carney. Now, the GCStrategies have been banned for the next 7 years from holding a contract with our government. However, what's to stop them from doing what SNC-Lavalin did, which was just switch their company name and start all over? And if you don't remember the SNC-Lavalin scandal, well, don't worry about it, because I'm going to be covering that in my next episode. I have a sneaky suspicion there's some parallels happening between SNC-Lavalin and GCStrategies, and I want to see how such a small company of two individuals was able to obtain such large contracts. And on that note, I'm going to end there. What we basically discovered is that the Liberals aren't afraid of wasting Canadian taxpayer dollars and then claim that $825 a year is going to make up for it. It won't. Inflation, cost of living, it just keeps rising. So we shall see. We shall see what is discovered. Carney promised us great things, so we'll see if he delivers. And on that note, have a good day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.